Live from Los Angeles, welcome back to Good Morning La La Land here on Wealth Wednesday. We've got a fantastic author and creator, Bodie and Trevor, here with us on the show. Welcome to the show, guys.
Thank you so much for having us on.
Absolutely.
So tell us about the inception of the Curseborn Saga. Where did this all start for you guys?
It started about 10 years ago. My brother just come back from Japan, and I was living in LA, and we decided, we want to work on an epic fantasy story together.
Yeah, and started out with me and my two friends that I met working at a video game store in high school, and my brother.
Yes, the gaming culture is huge. It's huge.
Yes.
What were some of the inspirations for you guys? Gaming, fantasy?
For me, Final Fantasy was definitely like a huge inspiration, along with I would say Legend of Zelda. Anything
Legend
with
of Zelda, yeah.
Throwback?
Yes, it's a throwback.
anything with like a deep storyline, I really loved. So.
Yeah, we put thousands of hours into a game called EverQuest, which was like one of the first MMO RPGs that was entered. Yeah.
The MOO? What?
Whole different language.
It's a massively multiplayer online role-playing game.
It's like thousands of people
Super
come
nerd.
together, and you have a character in the world, and like your character,
pretty
you
awesome,
get
though.
armor, and you run around and do missions and group activities, and yeah.
So audiences obviously are clamoring over this. What has been the biggest shock to you guys as creators in this?
I wouldn't say that I've been shocked.
You expected it the whole time.
Massive success.
Oh, I mean, like in regard to our series?
Yeah.
Oh, I feel like I wasn't really sure how it would be like setting out on this adventure like with my brother and my two friends, but it like turned out to be one of the greatest things I've ever done. Like it's so cool. It's like we're a family and we get to come together and like create a world and a universe together, which is just like any kid's dream, I feel like. And
Yeah, our conversations, like it would be super interesting to have you guys just in, because we discussed like last night we're on the drive up, we were discussing what it takes to make a great hero, and the pieces, like we're dissecting Iron Man for the reason that we love him, because he doesn't have like a superpower. He's not like Superman. He can't, he's just a normal human being using his mind, his intelligence. So
It's one of the reasons I didn't like it right away. When I heard about the premise, I was like, not really feel like a super. Then when I saw the movie, I was like, well, I'm in.
He's pretty cool.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
it just goes to show that like, you could have all these people with so many great superpowers, but at the end of the day, like the human battle, the strength of will, the tenacity, like the unfaltering faith, like that everyone has, that he brought out, that, he was the one that snapped his fingers and saved the whole universe. I just think that's so cool that he actually was like one of the weakest Avengers,
Yes,
So,
yes.
yeah.
I love that. To do what you guys do and to create what you create, you have to have that kind of faith as well.
Yeah.
Where do you get that from?
Unwavering belief that the story we're creating is going to be one of the best stories ever. Like my brother always says, we want to write a story that people read in 1,000 years. So it's not really about what's going on social media and stuff like that today, and what do we want to be, a TV series or what it is. It's just like the story itself. We want it to live on forever. So.
And I think that the way you do that is you kind of let the story tell itself. You create characters, you create their personalities, you create settings, you create plots, and then you kind of just play the wandering journalist who follows them and just says what happens, And if you let the story kind of tell itself, I think that it'll do all
I just love that. I heard an interesting interview once with like Quentin Tarantino and like Fiona Apple, and they were talking about like what their most creative moments were, and they both said something very similar, which was that essentially they feel like they have almost antenna or like satellites on their head that they just open up and leave out there, and then they receive the project, so they receive the music, and then they let it flow out from them. And I'm wondering, like, it sounds very similar to kind of what you guys do.
It is a natural progress.
Yeah, one of the biggest quotes that always affected me was George Lucas said, "Star Wars is a documentary in space." It's like he's filming a documentary.
Wow, that's how he sees it. That's
how he
actual.
sees it. That's exactly what he's talking about. He's just there filming it, and the story is actually happening there. Not really a story, it's real life to him,
How do you get tapped into that place where you're able to receive and then where it's not a forced effort? I think for lots of creative people, it's like you're forcing it.
I feel like for me, like I spent so much of my life engrossed in stories, like in different mediums, that to me, like how stories work is kind of like breathing for me. Like I just understand it. Like I remember being in college, like wondering like, what am I gonna do with my life? And then just like trying to think like, what am I good at? and I was like compiling the hours that I'd put into stuff that I'd done. And I was like, well, obviously I spent most of my life like engrossed in stories. And so when I like thought about it, I was like, well, you know what, why don't I just do this? And then it just comes together, yeah.
I think desire really fuels a lot of that super conscious stuff that you guys are talking about. This unwavering desire, I think, kind of feeds that conscious place that all of this is stemming from.
Yeah,
Or not conscious, but just kind of like, it's like magic. You're saying that you're just letting it unravel before you.
I think like we're going out. That's it. Cool.
You're not getting a cane, bro.
Oh, I was
Finish
just
up,
saying
yeah.
that like when we come together, like that creativity, we're coming together and we've all watched shows, we've read books, we're coming in like, did you see this? Have you heard this? Oh my God, what they did here was so sick. And we got, you know, that's just the inspiring, that gets us creative, you know?
Fantastic.
Well, special thanks to our dear mutual friend and family member, Tanya Memi. Thank you for the introduction.
Yes.
We are Good Morning La La Land, America's first live streaming daily talk show, coming to you live Monday through Friday at 9 a.m. All of today's interviews are available as a podcast on iTunes, and the whole show is streaming on Apple TV and Roku via the EverTalk app.
That's right. We're waking up the world together. Thank you so much. DM us, send us a message. Special thanks to Zulai.
Thank you guys. I love being here. Thank you guys.
It's going to be a good morning, La La Land.
Awesome.